You all watch movies and listen to songs. Some of you enjoy photography or paintings. When you do so, do you do that just to get entertained? Do you pay much attention to the details as a critic does? Well, there are different genres in different art forms, but simply genres don't define art forms. There are different styles defined by different philosophies, shaped by their places of origin, that decide how a painting or any art form should be looked at. The chapter Landscape of the Soul, written by Nathalie Trouveroy, throws light on this concept. It tells us how paintings are not just strokes of brush on a canvas. It is not just a simple imitation of life. It is more than that. 3 stories are told in the beginning of the chapter. Let us learn what these stories have to reveal. The first story. It is the story of famous Chinese painter Wu Daozi. He was a famous painter of the Tang dynasty. A legend is associated with him. It says that he painted a landscape for the Tang dynasty emperor Xuanzong on a wall of his palace. While demonstrating the painting to the emperor, he clapped his hands before a cave and a passageway opened. He vanished into the cave and the passageway closed behind him. The painting also vanished from the wall. The story tells us about the spirituality of art. It tells us that the outer appearance of a painting can be appreciated the way it was appreciated by the emperor, but its true meaning cannot be understood so easily. The artist here knows the way within. The second story is that of another Chinese painter who was afraid to draw the eyes of a dragon because he believed that the dragon might come to life and fly out of the painting. These stories stand in stark contrast with the European style of painting a landscape or even a portrait. The third story is from the 15th century Antwerp, a city in Belgium. There lived a master blacksmith named Quentin Metzys. He fell in love with a painter's daughter. The painter would not accept a man in such a crude profession to be his son-in-law. To convince the painter, Quentin one day sneaked into his workshop and drew a fly on a canvas. The fly was so realistically drawn that the painter mistook it to be a real one and tried to shoo it away. He agreed to marry his daughter off to Quentin. What do you understand from these stories? They tell us that European painters focus more on achieving an illusionistic likeness on their canvas of the world around. On the other hand, spirituality governs the Chinese style of painting. The author moves on to describe the philosophy behind Chinese way of painting. European landscapes are made from a particular point of view. A viewer needs to look at such a landscape exactly as the painter saw that. But a Chinese painting does not have a single viewpoint. The artist creates a path for the viewer and guides him through it. It is more prominent in a horizontal landscape painting. One section of the painting is revealed to the viewer at a time, and gradually revealed sections add a dimension of time to the painting. This requires an active participation of the viewer who decides the pace of viewing the painting. And the process does not require the viewer to borrow the artist's eyes. He rather creates his own viewpoint. The author then introduces us to the Chinese philosophy or concept of mountain water. Chinese landscapes are called SHAN-SHUI. Sha means mountain and Shui means water. These two things play great roles in Chinese landscapes. Mountains stand tall, horizontally reaching the heavens. It is yang, symbolizing the masculine aspect of universal energy. The water is yin, symbolizing the feminine aspects. It rests horizontally on the earth, fluid, moist, and cool. But Chinese paintings also have white empty places. These voids are important because the interactions between yang and yin, the masculinity and the femininity, take place there. These spaces tell us that the objective of a Chinese painting is not to overwhelm a viewer with intricate details. They are there to give some space to the viewer to meditate and grasp the inner meaning of the painting. An article on outsider art by Brinda Suri has been added here. This article focuses on the concept of Art Brut or the outsider art. It is a form of art created by an untrained visionary. This concept was first introduced by the French painter Jean Dubuff. The article tells us about Nek Chand, an Indian genius. He was a visionary. He didn't have any formal training in sculpting. He still created a garden with sculptures made of stone and recycled materials, and they were placed in his garden. This garden is now known as the famous Rock Garden of Chandigarh. This garden is a perfect example to demonstrate what art brut or raw art is. Anything and everything from a tin can or a broken down car, pieces of rock or even a sink can be used to create such art forms. Go through the chapter and try to understand the concept of Oriental philosophy of painting, an outsider art form presented here. That is all for today. Thank you.